They spoke of Earth as a cosmic joke, an overlooked corner of an underdeveloped spiral arm, home to a species barely out of its cradle. The Galactic Empire, a conglomeration of 1,000 starfaring civilizations, viewed humanity with disdain, if they bothered to think of them at all. When Earth was mentioned in the High Council chamber, it was with smirks and dismissive hand gestures. A planet of disunity, ideological friction, and constant conflict. Primitive. Divided. Insignificant. The Emperor's voice echoed across the Grand Hall as he scoffed at the suggestion of sending a full fleet. "Why waste fuel on ants?" he said. "Let the scouts collect their data. If resistance is met, we'll dispatch a detachment strong enough to flatten their atmosphere." Laughter followed. A few lower-ranking strategists exchanged quiet looks, uncertain but unwilling to challenge tradition. The Empire had faced threats before, but never from anything below Class 0. Earth didn't even qualify. A proposal was passed to initiate the subjugation protocol. Not war, not invasion, subjugation. A system of control employed against non-aligned planets lacking space travel beyond their moons. A psychological message would be broadcast first, interstellar frequencies filled with a rehearsed warning of inevitable conquest, urging Earth's leaders to surrender in exchange for technological benefits and survival. It was the same offer that had bent worlds before. Compliance, or annihilation. That simple. The message was crafted with tailored humiliation. Translated into over 400 Earth languages, it played on their divisions and fears. It pointed to their history of internal conflict, their inability to form a planetary government, their lack of interstellar presence. It mocked their pride. "You have gazed at the stars with wonder. We walk among them with dominion," the message concluded. "Kneel, and you may watch us pass." When Earth gave no reply, the Empire interpreted the silence as acceptance. A formality. One of the senior tacticians even remarked that humans might believe the transmission was fictional. "Perhaps they think it's one of their entertainments, those moving visual stories," he laughed. "They won't understand what's coming until it arrives." A single reconnaissance fleet was dispatched, standard practice. 17 light cruisers, 5 scout ships, and a central observation node. The ships were equipped with passive surveillance arrays and basic deterrent weaponry. Enough to overpower orbital defenses, if they existed. No military support was deemed necessary. No precautions taken. The system surrounding Earth had no known jump inhibitors, no active defense grids, and no record of off-world traffic. The fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's system without incident. Long-range scans commenced. Initial reports confirmed expectations: minor satellite activity, irregular global communication systems, no visible signs of defense platforms. And still, no response from Earth. The commanding scout officer sent another signal, this one more forceful, more direct. "You are observed. Do not resist." Again, silence. Then, anomalies began. Earth's satellites started shifting position, subtle at first, then erratic. Data streams shifted frequency, then vanished altogether. Thermal signatures from Earth's moon spiked unexpectedly. Electromagnetic readings from the oceans rose beyond predicted thresholds. Yet the surface remained eerily calm. Some on the fleet began to question the silence. This was not fear. This was calculation. But by then, it was dismissed as irrelevant. The report back to the Empire marked Earth as unarmed and psychologically subdued. The next phase of subjugation was green-lit, orbital demonstrations. Controlled energy discharges into Earth's uninhabited zones, a display of power, meant to reinforce the futility of resistance. 2 strikes were authorized, one into a desolate desert, another into the open sea. Both detonations occurred without a hitch. Still, Earth said nothing. The fleet's command center noted something peculiar during the post-strike analysis. Several objects previously identified as inactive debris in high orbit had shifted position, too quickly, too precisely. Unregistered satellites. Then came the jamming. Not brute force interference, but a surgical shutdown. Communications within the fleet began dropping. One ship, then two, then all internal links failed simultaneously. Even light-based communication channels were interrupted by polarized bursts of unknown particles. A final report was attempted before the blackout. It contained one sentence. "They are not what we thought." That report never reached the Empire. The silence that followed the fleet's last transmission wasn't accidental. It was engineered. Earth hadn't gone dark from fear. It had chosen to vanish from view. Across the planet, every major data stream rerouted into encrypted internal channels. Civilian communications appeared to collapse, but beneath the blackout, traffic spiked, a signal of unprecedented coordination. Satellite constellations flickered out of existence from external view, cloaked beneath rapidly deployed camouflage arrays. Earth didn't retreat. It reorganized. Within the fleet's command center, confusion grew. System logs couldn't account for orbital shifts occurring in real time. Astrophysical constants seemed inconsistent near Earth's orbit. Light travel times fluctuated beyond tolerable margins. The Empire's scanners, built for large-scale observation and planetary scans, began to glitch. Diagnostic protocols confirmed no hardware failures. The issue wasn't the equipment. It was the environment. Attempts to triangulate Earth-based transmissions failed. Every signal traced back to phantom sources. Fake nodes, duplicated pulses, coordinated decoys. The AI in charge of data analysis flagged the region as a zone of active electronic warfare. It couldn't identify the enemy. There were no launch trails, no signatures, no emissions. Just shifting frequencies and collapsing signal integrity. The admiral overseeing the fleet decided to probe deeper. A mid-range surveillance drone was dispatched toward Earth's upper atmosphere. It disappeared 42 seconds after launch. No debris, no explosion. A perfect data loss. The onboard tracker continued to ping for 3 seconds post-vanish, then went silent. Its last location was 30 kilometers above the Pacific. Nothing more. Minutes later, Earth transmitted. Just 3 words. "We see you." No origin point, no repeated signal, no secondary data. It bypassed the fleet's encryption, didn't ask permission to enter communication networks. It simply appeared, on every display, every internal screen, even non-network devices. The voice wasn't distorted, synthesized, or translated. It sounded human. Calm. Certain. Panic didn't set in immediately. The fleet was trained for unknowns. But what followed wasn't unknown, it was unprecedented. Several scout ships attempted to retreat to deep space to relay information directly to the Empire. They vanished seconds after initiating warp. Emergency exit trails ended mid-sequence, as if their drives had been suspended in motion. Their navigational logs were corrupted, filled with impossible coordinates, some of which traced back to stars that no longer existed. The Empire's doctrine left no room for superstition, yet the crew whispered of illusions, hallucinations. Some reported seeing mirrored versions of the fleet trailing behind them, perfect replicas matching their every move, then vanishing into nothing. Others detected gravitational lensing without massive bodies to account for the distortion. Space itself was behaving wrong. Sensors began detecting heat spikes across Earth's moon. Not from impacts or mining operations, but from focused thermal buildup consistent with underground energy discharge. The moon had been considered geologically dormant. Now, it radiated in precise patterns. Energy waves pulsed out in synchronized waves, not random, not natural. Human-made. Deeper scans revealed caverns, previously dismissed as natural voids. Now they lit up with complex electromagnetic signatures and radiation levels consistent with fusion-grade reactors. Earth hadn't put defense systems in orbit. It had buried them in silence. Humanity had prepared, not outwardly, but inwardly. Every weakness assumed by the Empire had been accounted for, hidden behind deliberate misdirection. The illusion of division, the impression of primitive tools, the chaos of decentralized command, all intentional. All cover for a civilization that had learned to evolve in secret. As internal communications continued to collapse, a foreign program injected itself into the fleet's primary systems. Not a virus, something more sophisticated. A map unfolded not of Earth, but of the fleet itself. Each vessel lit up in sequence, displaying its vulnerabilities. No commands were issued, yet systems reacted, shutting down automated protocols and unlocking manual overrides. Humanity was in control of their systems, without boarding a single ship. One final transmission came. "You were warned!" At that moment, Earth reappeared on long-range sensors, but with it came something else. Unknown signals, hundreds of them, orbiting every major celestial body in the system. They had not been built recently. They had been there all along, hidden beneath moons, rings, comets. Devices constructed to observe, to wait, and when necessary, to act. The fleet had been allowed to arrive. Allowed to observe. And now, their presence was no longer required. The decision to send reinforcements came not from logic, but embarrassment. The loss of contact with the scout fleet was viewed as a malfunction or, at worst, a rare planetary anomaly. The Empire could not accept the notion that a non-registered species had neutralized a fleet without firing a visible shot. Dozens of ships were assembled, more powerful, heavily shielded, armed with quantum warheads and AI-managed strike teams. The mission was framed as a rescue with authorization for escalation. Confidence remained intact. No real threat was expected. Upon arrival, nothing looked out of place. Earth sat motionless, orbiting its sun as it always had. Planetary scans returned to normal parameters. No signs of hostility, no indicators of weapon platforms, no residual traces of battle. The previous fleet's logs were unrecoverable. It was as though the ships had never existed. The command vessel's AI attempted to re-establish system-wide surveillance and deploy long-range drones. They disappeared within seconds, as before, except now, their final transmission showed coordinates that didn't align with known space. Distortion surrounded Earth's orbit, subtle but undeniable. Gravity fields twitched. Light angles broke. The system wasn't empty, it was layered. Then came movement, not from Earth, but beyond Jupiter. At first, nothing was visible. Just an energy flicker behind the gas giant. Then another, behind Saturn's rings. 17 simultaneous energy anomalies erupted across the outer system. The fleet prepared to engage, but there were no enemy signals, no weapon locks, nothing trackable. Ships materialized without trajectory. They simply appeared, one moment void, the next occupied. The vessels were unlike anything in the Empire's archives. No hull markings, no visible engines. Their shapes were angular and silent. They hovered in perfect stillness, then vanished again. In less than 2 seconds, a human fleet had entered and exited visible space, leaving only the shadows of their presence in magnetic readings. No warp trails. No drive signatures. They weren't traveling. They were arriving. A destroyer attempted to fire. Before its weapons charged, 2 of its turrets detached, cut from the hull with surgical precision. No impact, no beam. Just separation. Another ship attempted to flee. It was frozen mid-warp, caught in a bubble of time distortion and returned to normal space in fragments. No aggression had been declared. No warning had been issued. The Empire simply ceased to hold control. Human vessels reappeared, this time inside the fleet formation. Impossible by known physics. Teleportation was theoretical, limited to subatomic testing. These ships phased into formation like they had always been there, matching Empire transponder frequencies to mimic friendly signals. By the time systems recognized the deception, the formation had been infiltrated from within. Shields collapsed before activation. EMPs detonated in absolute silence, disabling engines, guidance, and internal defense without casualties. Dozens of Empire's ships drifted powerless. Not one was destroyed. Humanity didn't seek annihilation, they demanded recognition. They had the power to eliminate, yet they chose control. Their ships didn't broadcast alliance codes, nor did they attempt communication. The only interaction was a coordinated lock on every Empire command center, transmitted silently and simultaneously. It wasn't war. It was demonstration. Attempts to counter-teleport failed. Human technology didn't use jump drives. They didn't fold space, they rewrote positional states. Their fleet didn't move. It redefined location. To the Empire, the implications were catastrophic. Entire battle doctrines collapsed. Every strategy built around intercept, pursuit, and containment was rendered obsolete. Backup fleets across nearby sectors were scrambled, but upon initializing warp, their coordinates were corrupted. Navigation systems rerouted them to isolated voids or reflected them back to origin. Earth's defense didn't end at its orbit. It spanned gravitational points far beyond the solar system, silent beacons planted in uninhabited stars, pre-mapped interference zones ready to collapse space entry routes. The Empire, for the first time in recorded history, lost control of a spatial region without direct engagement. Humanity had proven a mastery not just of combat but of prediction. They hadn't just developed weapons, they had studied the Empire's every reaction, anticipated every move, and built systems designed not to resist but to preempt. No demands came from Earth. No broadcasts, no threats. Just a single notification uploaded to the surviving command vessels. A silent file, encrypted with alien-resistant code, readable only by direct neural interface. When opened, it displayed one sentence. "This is your final approach." And then the human fleet disappeared once more, without trace, without triumph, leaving only silence and paralysis in their wake. The Empire's response was immediate and overwhelming. Full war status was declared. Dozens of sectors redirected their fleets, prioritizing Earth's containment above all else. Commands were issued without delay: lock down the Sol system, disrupt human infrastructure, reclaim technological superiority. But the moment mobilization began, systems collapsed. Communications routed through standard relays experienced unpredictable latency. Orders duplicated, fragmented, or vanished entirely. Command nodes across 3 sectors reported localized time fluctuations and positional drift of satellites. Tactical AI across multiple fleets flagged inconsistencies in starfield alignment. The Empire was losing its grip, not from combat, but from environmental distortion designed to unhinge coordination. As reinforcements attempted entry, they found the system pathways sabotaged. Not destroyed, reprogrammed. Navigational beacons responded in known patterns, yet warped location data by a margin of light days. Entire fleets dropped into empty space, hundreds of units from intended destinations. Others emerged inside magnetic storms or near unstable gravitational rifts. It was not mere misdirection. Earth had engineered the battlefield on a cosmic scale. In the chaos, a pattern emerged. Human fleets weren't static. They blinked in and out of detection, never attacking first, but always appearing where they were least expected. Several command cruisers found their own targeting systems frozen mid-engagement. Every time coordinates were locked, ship systems restarted themselves, forcibly rerouted by embedded countercode that was never transmitted, only waiting. Human infiltration hadn't begun during the battle. It had started years before, while Earth pretended to be blind. Empire officers began requesting permission to retreat and regroup. Central Command refused. Pride outweighed logic. They issued Protocol Delta Black, authorizing planetary strikes. This triggered the next phase. Earth responded instantly. Across dozens of systems, dormant nodes activated. Ships appeared not just near Earth, but around distant outposts. Orbital stations belonging to the Empire's outer colonies found themselves suddenly without atmosphere. Artificial wormholes destabilized, consumed by gravitational countermines triggered by Earth's hidden assets. The message was clear: humans weren't confined to Earth. They had spread in silence. Quiet observers. Unseen architects. Colonies that once reported minor fluctuations in system diagnostics were now realizing those had been the first signs of Earth's quiet presence. Humanity had placed itself everywhere without raising alarms. The Empire never thought to look. Captured Empire ships, rendered inoperative, were not destroyed. Instead, they were found intact, their crews placed in stasis and returned, alive, uninjured, unharmed. A statement, not of mercy, but mastery. The message repeated within each returning vessel. We do not kill without cause. We do not flee from power. You chose this. More disturbing than loss of territory was the loss of certainty. Empire officers who once believed in technological supremacy now watched as entire star maps shifted before their eyes. Probes sent into contested space were returned to sender, deconstructed into component molecules, reassembled into cubes bearing Earth's insignia. Empire encryption protocols were cracked in real time. Tactical simulations rerouted themselves, refusing to process future battle scenarios. Human influence was no longer limited to ships or space, it had seeped into the predictive code of warfare itself. Allied species began defecting. The notion of Earth as a threat was no longer up for debate. It was a reality. Reports spread of entire command fleets locking down their weapons, not by sabotage, but by choice. Crew members refused to fire on targets they no longer saw as conquerable. They had seen what Earth could do with silence. They didn't want to see what it would do with rage. Requests for negotiation were finally made. Earth didn't reply. Instead, it allowed a single ship to pass unhindered. Inside were hundreds of stasis pods, former scout teams, technicians, specialists, all returned with memories wiped only of classified data. Their physical forms untouched, their survival a deliberate act of control. Earth wasn't erasing its enemies. It was teaching them submission through exposure. Empire leadership convened in secret. Internal debates erupted. Some demanded full-scale annihilation, others called for unconditional withdrawal. Neither side held dominance. Every plan required control of space, and Earth had stolen that without ever claiming it. Humanity hadn't asked for territory, recognition, or tribute. They had made only one move: denial of dominance. In the absence of official dialogue, one final automated transmission arrived from an unmanned human probe. It broadcast across every known frequency in the Empire's language. The stars belong to no one. We just remembered that first. And then, as swiftly as it had started, all human ships vanished from Empire scanners. No trails, no markers. Not retreating, simply gone. But the imprint of their presence remained in every system, every frightened strategist, every broken doctrine. Earth had never declared war. They had simply demonstrated why no one should provoke them again. The tribunal gathered in absolute silence. What was once a ceremonial assembly of confident rulers now resembled a council of the defeated. Gone were the echoes of superiority, the laughter at primitive lifeforms, the dismissals of distant planets. Earth's name had become a specter, spoken only in hushed tones, as if uttering it too loudly might summon another demonstration. Delegates from every corner of the Empire attended, not to debate conquest, but to understand survival. Transcripts from returning officers read like myths. Reports conflicted, systems failed to verify timelines, and yet every word carried the same truth: Earth had fought without a formal battle. It had brought fleets to their knees without firing volleys, dismantled doctrines without occupying planets, and disrupted an empire not by waging war, but by making it irrelevant. No civilization in recorded history had achieved this. Humanity had not asked for space at the table. They had made the table unnecessary. The High Speaker requested clarity on one unresolved matter: intention. What did Earth want? What were its demands? But no demands had ever arrived. No resources taken, no prisoners held, no territories claimed. Humanity had made no declarations, issued no ultimatums. They hadn't occupied. They had appeared, acted, and vanished, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and restraint. Such power without conquest was more terrifying than war. It meant Earth had the means to dominate yet chose not to. It meant Earth saw the Empire's strength and didn't need to match it, it transcended it. When the human envoy materialized via projection, not even the guards raised alarms. A single figure, unarmed, unsmiling, dressed without insignia, appeared at the center of the chamber. Not flesh and blood, but a simulated presence routed through unknown channels. The room held its breath as the envoy scanned the chamber, not with hostility, but with a calm that felt heavier than threats. You laughed, the voice began. You mocked what you didn't understand. You assumed dominance was yours because others bowed. We watched. We listened. And we learned. No one interrupted. We were never behind. We were beneath notice by design. While you measured strength by display, we measured silence. While you calculated conquest, we calculated outcomes. And when you chose arrogance, we prepared inevitability. The projection flickered not from weakness, but from encoded encryption so complex the Empire's security AI failed to classify it. The envoy's expression never shifted. You thought technology defined superiority. But you've built tools without vision. Systems without introspection. You conquered to maintain fear. We built to remove need. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. Not because of anger, but because every word was true. This is not a declaration. This is a correction. You believed yourselves above consequence. Now you understand exposure. The image paused. Not for emphasis, but to allow the words to settle where fear had already rooted itself. We claim nothing. We demand nothing. We do not govern your territories, your species, your systems. We simply see. And we remember. The projection faded. No trace of signal remained. Not even echoes. Immediately after, every Empire system recalibrated. Communications resumed normal behavior. Block data pathways reopened. Star maps adjusted themselves to accurate alignment. The galaxy reset, as if Earth had granted permission to resume. But nothing was the same. Every fleet remained docked. Every weapon remained cold. The Empire had not been defeated, it had been dismantled in spirit. Historians struggled to categorize the event. Analysts tried to chart the probability of such a rise from a planet once labeled a non-threat. None succeeded. Earth had bypassed every stage of empire building. It had no colonies to defend, no borders to expand. Its influence stemmed not from expansion, but precision. A minimal presence, with maximum consequence. The fear wasn't invasion. It was uncertainty. No one knew where humanity would surface next, what layer of reality they would inhabit, or how deeply their systems had already been penetrated. Earth had proven one terrifying truth: visibility was never a measure of readiness. And silence was not surrender. It was strategy. Across the galaxy, Empire children no longer played games about becoming conquerors. They told stories of the unseen watchers. Of ships that arrived without light, of probes that dismantled planets and reassembled them before sunrise. Earth had become legend. A lesson wrapped in silence, enforced with restraint. And though their ships were no longer seen, every system kept looking over its shoulder. Because in the minds of all who once ruled, a single thought remained. Earth was still watching.